It's September, and after a long, scorching summer, your Arizona garden is probably feeling the heat. But don't worry, cooler weather is just around the corner, and now is the perfect time to prepare your garden for a fresh start. And in today's video, I'll give you the September garden tasks so your vegetable, flowers, fruit trees, and landscape are ready for the next season. I'm Angela from Growing in the Garden. My garden's in Mesa, Arizona. I want to help you succeed, even if you're gardening in tough conditions. If you're wondering what to plant in September, the best place to start is my planting guide. I also have a full YouTube video that tells you everything you need to plant this month. If your garden's anything like mine, it is probably looking a little rough after this long, hot summer. It's time to clear out any dead or dying plants and get rid of all that garden debris. If they're just dead, throw them in the compost. If it's from disease or pests, put them in your trash. It's time to make room for healthy new growth. If your garden is struggling, it's time to dig a little deeper. Check your soil's moisture level deep down in the bed. Is it too wet? Too dry? Dig down into your beds and see for yourself, and then adjust your watering accordingly. Water should be penetrating at least 12 inches deep each time that you water. Dig down and make sure that there's enough moisture in the soil. If there's moisture, it should hold together but not be soggy. If it's too dry, you need to water more. The moisture level in this bed is just about right. If things aren't growing well and there are big trees nearby, dig down in your beds and see if those tree roots are stealing all of the water and nutrients. Dig down and remove all of those roots inside the bed, and then pull the roots back and get them as far away from your bed as you can. The soil in your bed should be light and friable. That means that it's loose and not compacted. I use the raised bed mix from Arizona Worm Farm, but you can make your own using compost, coconut coir, and perlite. And finally, if all of those check out, but your garden still isn't doing well, get a soil test. It will tell you the nutrient levels, the pH level, and then you can amend it based on those results. By addressing these root causes, you'll set your garden up for success. Once you've addressed any issues, fill your beds back up and get them ready for fall planting. Use compost, worm castings, and raised bed mix, and your beds will be ready to go. The easiest way to supercharge your soil with nutrients and microbial activity is with in-bed vermicomposting bins. When it's hot, the worms in my bins become scarce. But when the nighttime temperatures come down, the worms come back into the bins. So when the nighttime temperatures are consistently below 80, it's time to refresh or add bins to your bed. Here's how to start a vermicomposting bin. The worms don't actually need a bin, but it makes it easy for me to know where to put the food scraps and where to harvest the castings. I like using these wire plant protectors or hardware cloth to form a cavity inside the bed that keeps the soil out. I fill the bottom with a few inches of wood chips and then I wet it down. This creates a nice habitat for the worms. Next, I add the worms. Red wigglers are the best for this. Use anywhere from 300 to 600 worms per bin. Next, you're gonna top that with an inch or two of food scraps. And then, top the whole thing with another layer of wood chips. Worms break down the scraps and make castings right in the bed. It doesn't get any fresher than that. You'll know it's time to feed the worms again when that wood chip level goes down. To refresh an existing bin, it's the same process, but you don't need to add worms. As temperatures cool, the worms will come back into the bins. If birds are snacking on your seedlings, an effective method is to use tulle, the same fabric that's in wedding veils. Cut it to size, put it on the soil, and then hold it in place. It keeps your seedlings safe and the birds out. Next month is a huge month for planting. Now is the time to plan your garden. Use your planting guide to see which crops are best to plant. And then make a list of your must-grow crops. Sketch out your garden and map where each crop will grow. A little planning now means a thriving garden and big harvests later. It's time to prepare containers for planting. You can dump out the potting soil, add it to your compost, or use it as mulch around your yard. But if you'd like to refresh the soil and use it again in your containers, I'll show you what to do. Pull off any mulch and then dump it out into a wheelbarrow or a tarp and break it up, removing any big roots. This doesn't have a lot of roots, so this is a good choice to reuse. Look at all this soil. If it's mostly roots and not much soil, you might want to just start over. This hasn't been watered for a while, so you want to make sure that the soil can accept water and that it's not hydrophobic. Next, we're going to add some nutrients into the soil with some fresh worm castings, some fresh raised bed mix that has compost mixed in it, and we also want to add some balanced organic fertilizer. Now this soil is ready to put back in your container. Before filling up your containers, clean them out and make sure there's no pests or disease. Give them a quick scrub to loosen any debris or any hiding pests. You can use some dish soap if you want, but I usually just use water. Once they're cleaned out, I let them dry in the sun. Same thing with your oyas. Clean them off a little bit before you put them back in your containers. September is a time of transition for your flower garden. Summer bloomers are going to finish up, and as they do, you'll amend that bed with an inch of compost. To save seeds from zinnias, pick a few of your favorite disease-free blooms and leave them on your plant as long as possible. You're letting the seeds inside have a chance to fully develop. Let them fully dry out and then cut them off and store them in a paper bag. When they're completely dry, separate the seeds from the chaff. They'll be perfect for planting next year. Start lightly fertilizing your roses in September. Keep up with deep watering until it cools in October, and that's when you'll do a light pruning to encourage that fall flush of blooms. September's cooler temperatures are inviting for pests like whiteflies, aphids, and grasshoppers. Spend time in your garden each day so you can catch problems when they're small, and do everything you can to encourage beneficial insects. At this time of year, tacomas and yellow bells can get infested with caterpillars. Usually it's best left untreated and the plant isn't harmed. If the plant is large, it usually survives the infestation and you don't need to do anything. If you decide to treat, you have a few choices. Spray off with water or use BT. And then when the weather cools a bit, the caterpillars will move on. Apply the last round of citrus fertilizer to your trees early in the month. Follow package directions and water well before and after you fertilize. Are your citrus trees stressed after a long, hot summer? Wait until nighttime temperatures are below 80 and then begin picking off the damaged leaves and fruit. It's not time to prune. We'll do that in the spring. I've started using BSFL Nutrient Plus on my struggling trees. It has enzymes that promote healing. Use 1 cup undiluted for every 3 feet of tree height and water in deeply for trees. For stressed trees, do that once a week. Once they start to recover, every month or 2 is fine. I get mine at Arizona Worm Farm, but you can also get it at Summer Winds Nursery or online at Arbico Organics. Perennial herbs like oregano and mint might look a little haggard. Once temperatures are consistently below 100 degrees, you can prune them back by about 1/3. Top them with compost and worm castings, give them a good drink, they'll bounce back in no time. September is a good time to plant agave, cactus, and yuccas, but for most other landscape plants, it's best to wait. They will do much better if you plant them in October. While you're waiting to plant, look around your neighborhood. Are there plants that did well over the summer? Use a Plant ID app and identify them, and add those plants to your planting list for October. For existing landscape plants and vines, once those temperatures stay below 100 and you start to see new growth, it's the perfect time to cut them back. That will get rid of all of this overgrown summer damage, and we'll have a flush of new beautiful growth for fall. As the nights get cooler, gradually extend the time between watering. You'll water just as long, but not as frequently. For garden beds, water every 2 to 5 days, gradually spacing that time out further throughout the month. For containers, do the same thing. They'll probably need watered more at the beginning of the month than they will by the end of the month. For your landscape trees and shrubs, gradually lengthen the time between watering. At the beginning of the month, you might be watering every week, but by the end of the month, hopefully you can lengthen that time to once every 2 weeks. September is a great time to get your Arizona garden ready for fall. If you'd like a free printable list of all these tasks, head to my website. Most of all, don't stress and enjoy every minute you get to spend in the garden this month. You see something, say something. Perfect time to cut them back. Okay, let's shoot.